Good morning, everyone. Good morning, everyone. I will be very honest. This morning, I prepared a very serious introduction for this session. I had to write it down because I'm French. My English is not very good, so I need to write my good sentences. But finally, I changed my mind. After this first part of the session, it came to me many feelings, and I think I want to talk about feelings first to start, and I want to speak also to the beneficiaries, the MAVA beneficiaries, to speak to the people who are implementing conservation initiatives, because that's why we are here, for the marine conservation impact. So this session, in fact, is dedicated to these people who are doing the job on the field. And this first part of the session, when we look at this map, first, it's a huge work that has been done. I guess it's so complex. It shows the complexity, the number of the actors on the field and on the financial part. So it's scary. I was scared, and I'm sure everybody is a bit scared and stressed. We shouldn't deny it. We are at a very critical time for the partners of the MAVA Foundation. Everybody is working, is thinking about the new fundraising strategy. I think we must recognize the huge work undertaken by the MAVA, the very strong support, and we must recognize that this foundation really supports us to prepare this moment. For the last years, the MAVA support this collaborative approach, and it's not by chance that today there is this big MPA no-take zone project that is implemented on several sites of the Mediterranean regional scale by so many partners. So this collaborative approach has been very supported by the MAVA. And thanks to this approach, we all know, I think it's the words of the day, collaboration, coordination. There is no need to discuss it again. I think everybody is convinced. But those words are notions. It's still a bit abstract. It's an approach. We are talking about collaborative approach to funding. Everybody is convinced now, thanks to this mapping as well. When we see the number of actors, but what I want to do now this session is to address some questions, and very concrete questions from the partners. How do we move from a concept, the collaborative approach, which is now a concept, how do we move from this concept to concrete action on the field? And that's why I'm very happy and honored to have those panelists with us today, because we launched those discussions, and we need the point of view from all the parts, from the partners, technical partners, financial partners. You are people with great experience, and you can share your experience, your advice, and maybe provide some concrete answers to some questions that were raised by the partners. So I just quickly introduce José Tavares from Vulture Foundation, Jalbert from Tour du Valat, Fabrice Bernard from the Conservatoire du Littoral, Elodie Courreau from the Med Fund, and Pierre Carrette from the CEPF. So thank you very much for participating to this session. We'll just play a role of questions, answer. José, maybe the first question is, can you share your experience that demonstrate the benefits of this collaborative approach?
Yes, so we talked, or we heard in the last session about the collaborative approach to funding. What we've been doing is really a collaborative approach to conservation action. Lots of people said we have got no time to waste. Harrison Ford said it very eloquently. MAVA said it also because they are closing down and they were really looking for maximum impact. And let's be honest, sometimes the traditional partnership approach of sitting around the same table, a number of organizations, listing what they want to do, summing up the budgets, and then asking for funding is not really well equipped or does not work sometimes to address the drivers or some of the threats, particularly at regional scale, at the Mediterranean scale. I can give you an example. Poison is the #1 threat to vultures in the Mediterranean, and if you want to have a sustainable population of vultures, you need to address this issue. Now, this issue is extremely complex, multidisciplinary. It involves lead poisoning, so hunting-ammunition. It involves veterinary drugs, the veterinary industry. It involves illegal poison with the use of illegal baits to solve human-wildlife conflict with carnivores. Some of it is legal, some of it is illegal. It involves enforcement, lobby and advocacy, veterinary, the industry, and so on. And not one organization, even a European organization, is equipped to deal with all this. And what MAVA did in the last few years, in order to address these threats, and poison was one of the threats selected in this program comprehensively, is it analyzed, it got together a number of organizations that were working on the issue, analyzed this threat using open standards in a comprehensive way. We jointly identified priorities. This meant really a strategic realignment of each own organization strategy so that we together could try to tackle this threat in a comprehensive way. This was not easy, but I think it is working, and it is one step beyond the traditional partnership approach, and I think that's what we needed for addressing these threats and having maximum impact in this time of acute biodiversity crisis.
Thank you very much for this, for sharing your experience. So that's true that we are working marine conservation. We are working on the field. Sorry, conservation in general. It's a very complex field with different cross-cutting thematics, different threats, growing pressures, and there is this need to integrate, in fact, the expertise to have better impact. Jean, I have a question for you. Does the process of joint fundraising work require a whole new structure, for example? What is your experience technically in this field?
Thank you, Adèle. Yeah, so we do believe that we don't need to make new structure or new organizations. In the Mediterranean Basin, we have already so much organizations and not very well articulated. But we need to build new mechanisms, new way to collaborate and to synergize. And for example, when MAVA announced its closing down in 2022, at the same time, MAVA also called for initiatives, for candidates to secure and sustain this conservation community. Just to remind that MAVA is just not another donor. It's a donor which has also the aim of securing, fostering, sustaining a conservation community. And this is the legacy of MAVA. And we felt that, yes, on the field of wetland conservation, on the field of the Mediterranean Basin, perhaps we could do something to secure, to sustain, to ensure that this community is still active on a long time. And we didn't want to start from fundraising perspective. We felt that it was a kind of a trap. And we thought that it was better to first start on what do we want to achieve together? What kind of impact do we want to have together? And then the fundraising question will come naturally. And that's what we did. So in 2016, we gathered 50 organizations, so conservation organizations working at freshwater wetland conservation in the Mediterranean Basin, donors, research organizations, and tested whether they felt this was a good idea. And clearly the response was yes. And the next year we established this Mediterranean Alliance for Wetland, gathering today 31 organizations from 15 Mediterranean countries, mainly conservation organizations, but also research organizations, working together. And we started really to set up this alliance on what kind of impact do we want to have. And it took 1 year, and after this year we said, okay, now what kind of fundraising do we need? What kind of funding do we need to achieve this impact we want to have together? And so far we have developed a project funded by FFEM and the French Development Agency, and we are entering in the second phase quite soon. But also during this last period of MAVA Foundation, this outcome action plans targeted on different biomes, it appears that the MAVA partners involved in the biome, in the WAP and the outcome action plan on coastal wetlands and on river basin are 90% members of the alliance. And we said, okay, we have to do something together in order to ensure that on the fundraising side, we have a clear vision of what we want to achieve after MAVA, and then to attract the donors for this. And this is what we're going to today. At the moment, we have not yet finalized because it's an ongoing process, but there is a real clear willingness and shared approach that yes, we need to synergize, that we need to have a clear long-term goal and clear objective on the shorter term, and then this is the best recipe, we do believe, to attract donors if we are able to share and to hold together this goal.
Thank you very much. That's very clear. So in fact, you just gave us one of the receipts for a successful collaboration. So I think we understand that maybe the starting point should be this common vision and clear objectives, and common objectives as well to reach the vision. And this should be the motivation afterwards to go for a joint fundraising, not the opposite. Okay, thank you very much. Fabrice, you can share with us as well another illustration of a collaborative approach.
Yes, of course. Yes, I'm Fabrice Bernard from Conservatoire du Littoral. The Conservatoire is a French public organization based in France, and we buy land in France, only in France. But we have to share this experience. We have to share the experience of the manager from our sites everywhere, and more especially in the Mediterranean basins. And we do this since years. Now you can see that. Yeah. We started to work 20 years ago with the Tour du Valat about a project. The name was Med-Wet Coast. Yeah. So we started to work with lots of partners, because in Mediterranean basin we love to share things. We love to share around the table, to eat things, and so collaborative sharing moment is very important, and we don't have choice. It's in the DNA of the Mediterranean cooperation and action, and we can do that all the time for conservation. So some times ago, exactly 2 years ago, we started to discuss with different partners. All of these partners that are there, MedPan, PIM Initiative, IUCN Med, the Forest Alliance for the Mediterranean, Med-Wet and Tour du Valat, and we, Conservatoire du Littoral, started to discuss all together what we're going to do after the MAVA funding disparition. How can we organize? We can fight against each other at the end to find a small amount of money, or we can try to have a joint collaboration and do things properly. So we don't work on the same field, the wetlands, small islands, forests, coast, etc. And we consider that it could be very interesting to share all this network, skills, competency, because we spend a lot of times the foot in the mud in the Mediterranean. We spend time with people. We know the name of the children of our partners. So it's a very important thing in the Mediterranean. So we wanted to share that and say, okay, all together we will be stronger. It's not new, but we say, okay, now we'll try to find a good way to work all together. This consortium for the Mediterranean biodiversity have to be a solution for action on the field, because we want concrete things, not talking about just concepts and things. We want, so we spend time to put stick on the mud and things and discuss how to pay a boat, who will pay for the gasoline. We did that. So we want to continue to do concrete things. And to do this, we will create a think and do tank, because we want to make all these concepts we all know all together. What do they mean for people on the field? For a warden, when we talk about One Health, what we will have to do? Well, so we have to be the facilitators between the concept and the reality on the field. We want to be the solution to prevent before degradation. As the Alliance for Wetlands did, we want to create a red alert, and people on the field who will know that a project will destroy biodiversity. We will do our best to help them. It will be easier if we are with lots of organizations like this. We want to be a solution for the funders, because as Pierre said before, for big funders sometimes it's easier to spend millions of euros, but on the field it's hard to give to one NGO €1 million. But we want to be this interlink between these two. Also, we want to be this solution for the small ground project to do this. But for that, we need money, of course. So we are lucky, because since the beginning of this initiative, the French GEF, the FFM, and the French Agency for Development, l'AFD, tell us, okay, we will follow you and we will give you some money to start this. So we are dealing with this, and we will start in 2022, next year. And the first project will be led by the Tour du Valat, but in the framework of this consortium. But we will launch tomorrow, it's a breaking news, a new initiative. We want to deal with business also, of course. And we started since months discussing of the Chamber of Commerce and Business of Marseille to create the 1% for the Mediterranean. You know, all 1% for the planet. It's more focused for big companies. And after the money, we don't always know what kind of action concrete will be done. We said, okay, we have been contacted by lots of small companies. They want sometimes to give us 500 euros, 1,000 euros. And for them, they said, we are sorry. But it's not nothing. And we said, okay, at the level of territory of each Chamber of Commerce of the Mediterranean basin, we will propose them to deal with all these small companies, to give this small amount of money. And this small amount of money will go on the field, directly in this area, and 50% of this amount of money will go for NGOs for conservation of biodiversity and startups for conservation of biodiversity. And the rest, 50%, will go for the consortium to deal with small projects, small ground projects on the field. So that's a new initiative we want to share with you, because it will start tomorrow.
That's excellent. That's an innovative approach, we can say.
We have to try.
You have to try. And it seemed on the right way. Just a question. You mentioned the red alert, and I think I heard about it. And I think it's a very good illustration of a collaborative approach also, and it's showing well the benefits of this kind of approach. And maybe, Jean, I think we discussed this. You can share a few words about it.
Yes, I forgot to mention it, yes.
Right.
You're right. Yeah, the idea came from the fact that most of the project, or at least within the intergovernmental approaches like the Ramsar or any kind of intergovernmental approaches, you know, each country don't want to put the blame on the other country. So, and the result is that projects appear and wetlands are degraded and nobody reacts. And so we wanted to put in place something else, because we are a bit, you know, it's too hard to see all these wetlands disappearing while everybody seems to be very, very committed. And so we designed this red alert system, which is an early warning system. Among all the members of the alliance, I didn't mention, but the members, the beauty of the thing is that we have international organizations, but also national organizations. And the idea is to really foster a network of national organizations. So each national members should how to say it, develop, foster a community of local wetland, local organizations. And all these organizations are the best place to see, to know if somewhere a wetland is threatened by a project. And before the project happens, before the wetland is destroyed, this early warning system allows us to be aware of what should happen, what could happen here, because there is an infrastructure project or tourism resort project which is going to harm the site. And we have designed a very articulated approach with key criteria, but just to make sure that there is a real threat, to then design a strategy to avert the threat and to implement it. So targeting a national government or a private company, and the idea is not to go to court, is just not to complain, but just to say, okay, you are going to destroy a treasure. There is, and you want to make money for the country, but there are many other ways. Here, this is a key asset for a country, and you can have much more well-being for your population, much more wealth for your population if you safeguard this and properly manage it. And we are here, if you want, to advise you and to be at your side for a sound management of it. So far it works quite well. We had successes in Albania. We are at the moment working in Greece, where it seems not that well on the right track, but we are still pushing. In Tunisia, so this is growing, but clearly there is a clear need from NGOs, but also from donors. They do believe that this kind of approach is promising, and that's why we are developing it in the alliance. But this is also a key device, a key part of the consortium for biodiversity.
Thank you very much. It's a very good illustration of the collaboration, and I think it's this red alert system process could be applied or replicated, in fact, on all the thematics of the conservation. Finally, it just came to my mind that it's a process that can be applied on marine conservation, on other thematics. Thank you. So just a question for all of you. In fact, let's talk about the challenges, the difficulties you had to face to set up the collaboration between the actors. It's an open question, and so let's jump to talk about it and how to address these challenges.
I mean, I think one aspect is really being transparent and honest about your weaknesses and about your strengths, and this is not easy. And we had to do it. Exposing your soft underbelly in front of organizations that sometimes could be regarded as competitors requires a shift in organizational approach and behavior. But we had to do it because the task was we need to change things on the ground. We knew how much time we had, we knew how much money we had, and we had to discuss jointly who was best equipped to do what. And this required really, putting forward the costs of your staff and the cost of our operations and comparing it with other organizations and deciding jointly who was best to do it. And this was not easy, and it was when all the organizations shifted to this really honesty approach that the trust was built and the true collaborative approach to conservation action that we now see in some of these partnerships really kicked in.
If I may, I fully support what José just said. This is key. And just to mention that the action of MAVA is absolutely key for this. Being partners in these outcome action plans allowed us to work with organizations. We knew, of course, we met from time to time that here we are partners. We are sharing our views, we put our guts on the table and they say, okay, what we want to do together. And this is absolutely key. One a bit of a worry is that I feel that the largest organization, the global organization, do feel that they don't need to synergize with others because they are big enough to do the job. And this, for me, it's a bit of a worry. Yes, I think that I'm sure they are fully capable to deliver properly on their own. But I'm convinced that we are going to lose the war if we are not aligned, if we don't synergize. Whether we are a small one, a big one, we need to work together.
Just maybe also to give a donor's point of view on the alliance of organization and consortiums. It's very often welcome, but we also have to be considerate of the risk associated. And I sometimes find that we donors kind of give a kind of perverse incentive for organization to join force. And you know what the saying is? I mean, forced marriages are not necessarily happy marriages. And sometimes donors really give the impression to the organization that if they want to have funding and support, they need to be together. And they force themselves to be together. And sometimes it works well, sometimes it works slightly or mildly well during the time the donor is still supporting this consortium, but as soon as the donor disappears, the alliance disappears as well. And so we have to, I mean, that's the reason why the point you made at the very beginning about what is our goal, what is our mission, and if there's a shared vision in that sense, it's possible and it's welcome. But let's be careful also that not all alliances are good alliances.
Yeah, I have written that on my paper. I didn't take the time to. For the consortium, it was a wedding of interest at the beginning. Now it's a wedding for love. Because we spent 2 years eating all together, explaining what are the goals, what do we want, who we are, what are our specific DNA from each organization. And we spent time, 2 years, to discuss, to flirt. I don't know in English, we can do this? Yes, yeah, to flirt. We have been flirting.
The seduction phase.
Yeah, very, like, pon. Yeah. So now we want to marry. We have signed the agreement for the wedding. It was the 12th of March. I remember that all my life. And now, be sure that this consortium, it's for interest, of course, but also because we love Mediterranean and we all have the responsibility to prove because I know that lots of big NGO don't want to work in Mediterranean because it's too complicated, it's dirty, it's impossible to do things there. Lots of donors say, oh, it's complicated. We want to prove these guys it's possible to do things. We have the common responsibility to prove we have to do things because it's very important, of course. But yes, we can. Finish.
Thank you. So let's talk about wedding now. Yeah. So everybody can understand that's a love story. Yeah. The conservation is a love story from the beginning until the end. We hope so. Huh? Yeah. But maybe also we can consider that those weddings are not necessarily in the sense of, Judeo-Chrétien. It's not the Christian wedding. We don't marry for our whole life. It's also possible to change of partners on the way. So maybe we shouldn't be so afraid of getting married with someone at that time for this objective, because the objectives and the visions sometimes are evolving, are changing, evolving. They need to adapt, to adjust to the changes in the context. So we shouldn't be afraid of and consider that these would be obviously long-term wedding and then with. I stop here. Elodie, we would like to have your point of view. So you are representing the Med Fund, and the Med Fund has the particularity to be, in fact, kind of interface between the conservation actors and the funders. So can you share with us?
Yes, thank you, Adèle. Yes, when we talk about a collaborative approach, actually the Med Fund is born from a collaborative approach from all the organizations and governments that were working about the around the marine protected area around the Mediterranean, and they identified a financing gap. They were missing funding for the basic core management cost of the MPAs. So all these organizations joined together to create a financing mechanism, a conservation trust fund. It started 8 years ago, and then now we are fully operational. So the Med Fund was created by this collaborative approach. And when we discuss about collaborative approach from the donors' point of view, and this I turn with my colleague from CEPF, and it's really important for us that we share also our vision between donors, because we have, as we seen on the map before, we are a lot of donors going on the same site and sharing common grantees, and it's really good for us. It's clearly beneficial for donors to share our point of views about the different sites. It avoids overlapping. It avoids a lot of it adds consistency. And the most important thing is, we really think it helps the grantees to really go beyond the only one-to-one relationship with one donors, and create the best, the most appropriate funding scheme for their needs. And we want to find complementarities with donors and with the grantees, so that we cover all the basic needs and all the needs for them to have the most the best impact on the field. And I wanted also to react on something about the forced marriages that we discussed before. And at MedFund, we support co-management activities and on the field. And co-management is about supporting the national authorities that is responsible for the management of the marine protected areas, and an NGO that will be able to really act and be very reactive on the site. And we ask them to apply together. So really, it's kind of a forced application. We ask them to apply together, to come to the table and share their point of view and their vision. And it's sometimes complicated at the beginning, but we really see that it's something that we discussed, that in Albania, in Morocco, in Tunisia, in Turkey, we really see that the relationships between the NGO and the national authority that is in charge of the MPA really grows, and it's really we really try to make it flourish, so that they can understand each other and respond to the needs of the MPA at the best.
So in fact, what you are saying is that this collaborative approach is acting as the leverage to remove policy barriers at some sites.
It is. For example, in Turkey, there were no agreement of co-management for the marine protected areas, and in June they just signed the agreement based on the agreement, that the funding agreement that we had. So most of them, they just use this agreement of our funding to organize their co-management agreement. So it's kind of an advance on this.
Thank you very much. Thank you for sharing this experience. Pierre, we have still a few minutes to to benefit from your experience in the CUPF. Of what is your perception as a donor? What kind of recommendations you could provide to the MAVA OIP partnerships for their ongoing fundraising strategy?
Yeah. Thanks.
Future fundraising.
I mean, there's a lot of things that have been said already, so I'm gonna be very brief. Really to focus on the partnership approach. I mean, CEPF is a critical ecosystem partnership fund. Right. So we have a 20-year experience of what a partnership is, in a way, in bad and good ways, both. So we already talked about what could make a partnership a good thing, and sharing a vision is definitely key and takes time. And even more important, I would say, is when you disagree, when the goal of the partnership is not anymore the one of your own organization, just leave the partnership and don't ruin the partnership from the inside. This is a very key message, because otherwise, I mean, you can kill a partnership just with one member among 10 or 12. And this is a very important message. There's a good time to join, and there's also sometimes a good time to leave a partnership. I think it's something that is very important. Second thing is to accept to change your practices and to adapt your practices to the others. And we have a recent example of CEPF working with the POND, the Press Powered Trust. We launched a joint calls for proposal. It's a very good thing for the beneficiaries, for the organization. They don't have to apply twice. They don't have to apply twice with two different templates. They don't have to apply twice with two different financial mechanisms and ways of accounting, etc. Very good. But for us, what a terrible work it was to really align our practices, agree on what we request in a concept note. It took a bit more than a year to agree on all that. And it worked. And for me at CEPF, I've tried to do a joint calls for proposal with several organizations over the years. It was the first time it worked. But it takes a lot of examples. It takes also a mindset of being in a partnership from both organizations, and with no organization wanting to take the lead or to impose their views on the others. It's very difficult. And then, I mean, it's always the question of complementarity versus competition. Even between donors, we can always think that we would like all to support the best organization or support the best grantees. And there are some actions that are so good in terms of visibility and communication. Everybody would like to finance things like that. But that's where you have to be understanding of the strengths and weaknesses of all donors, the different approaches, and try to work together and discuss together, okay, you do that, I can do something else which will be complementary. And it's exactly the case with the Med Fund, where the Med Fund can support the recurrent costs and can support the national agencies, as you say. And I know that we work together on the same marine protected areas. CPF is doing the work with civil society organization for big push, big investment, equipment, and you are doing this long-term funding of the recurrent costs. And that's where also a partnership. We don't share the funds, we don't pool the funds together, but we work in a way that will be beneficiary for conservation of biodiversity at the end of the day. And when I've said that, just as a conclusion, you understand that all this takes a hopeful amount of time and human resources. It doesn't cost in terms of implementation, but you need to have the human resources to do that. And I know a lot of organization, philanthropies, or even worse with the institutional cooperation, the institutional organization, like bilateral cooperation. They are completely understaffed. In the philanthropic sector, it's for another reason. The trustees want to have 90% of the money going to the ground. And so they reduce the amount of human resources at the headquarters, at the main office. And when you do that, of course you have the 90% going to the field, but maybe not in the optimal way. While if you have more staff, then this staff is less under stress and have the time to go and discuss and take the time to meet with the other donors, other stakeholders, and then have a better aligned and fine-tuned approach in the way the donor is giving money at the end of the day. So this is, I think, an important message as well. And our colleagues from FFEM or AFD or the European Commission would certainly say the same. I used to work for the European Commission. You can trust me on that. Yeah, that's all I wanted to say. But also maybe let's not blame ourselves. In the Med is really a hotspot of cooperation and collaboration. It's completely amazing if you compare with other regions of the world. We can be proud of the level of cooperation between donors, between organizations, between countries. Everybody says the Mediterranean basin is very complicated. There's so much cultural differences. Actually, no. I mean, everybody has the feeling of sharing the same sea, and even with different cultural background, there's a very strong Mediterranean spirit, which is a very good strength for cooperation, and you can see that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much for this advices, recommendations, and those feedback from your experience and your expertise. They are very valuable advices from the MAVA OAP partnerships who are building their fundraising strategy. So I hope that we have addressed some of the questions everybody had in mind. But if some of you in the audience have some questions, maybe we have 2 minutes left. Okay, so that was very clear. I really thank you, all of you.